Welcome back to the Southern Scene. It's time now for our legal scene. As you know, the St. Patty's Day celebration and festivities is upon us. As we speak, hundreds of thousands of people are coming into our city to have a great time. And at times, well, things can get a little out of hand. With so much going on at once, sometimes people on both sides of the law can find themselves in trouble. So what do you do? We decided to take that question to our legal expert, Mark Tate. And now Mark Tate of Tate Law Group joins us on the Southern Scene. Okay, so Mark, let's talk about St. Patrick's Day shenanigans. Okay. A lot of people coming into our area as we speak. So, you know, a lot of things get out of hand. So if that happens, I mean, what should folks do?
All right, Natalie, so here's the deal. You know, we represent the young lady who was attacked by the police officer here in Savannah. Your station did a wonderful story on that. And what happens is, you know, Savannah's police department is stretched very thin during St. Patrick's Day, and they bring in state troopers, and nerves are on end because they've got guys who should be mainly stuck behind desks most of the time. They've pressed them into street service for days on end, very long shifts.
Going back to that case, I mean, the way that worked is it because, you know, the law enforcement officer inappropriately manhandled the female when he was apprehended her?
Even police officers have to use reasonable force in dealing with people that they're apprehending. The force that he used was clearly on tape not reasonable. She was walking away from him after he maced her in the face, and she was not antagonizing him. She didn't even touch him, and he went up.
So she was not out of control.
She wasn't even intoxicated, and so she was maced in the face, and she's stumbling around the crowd, and the police officer went over and grabbed her and face planted her to the ground, none of which is an approved police tactic. So this police officer, as it turns out, was not a street officer who generally works behind a desk. Those are the officers who get put into situations on the street that get them into trouble. And that's also a problem that we have with the police department.
But when you have so many people come in town, I mean, you have to have the manpower out there, so they probably pull from everybody.
They pull from everyone, yeah. And the problem is that we're pressing people in Savannah into service who are not crowd control officers. And so Savannah, one time a year, has this huge event where 600,000 people roll into town. Our problems come, and the officers well know when they come. They come late at night, they come late into the celebration, they come in certain areas, and they know where they are. Putting a cop in a box in the sky in City Market is not going to prevent anything. It may increase the arrests that they make, but then there's, you know, you got to understand, I think, the difference between good policing and useless arrests. And already when you spend some time on the sheriff's website and look, you see that most of the arrests, most of the time, they're locking up people for misdemeanors.
But those are all misdemeanors, and you don't necessarily need an attorney, you know, if that particularly. I mean, what would you advise?
Being kind and courteous as you can to the police officers, and if there's a police officer around, try not to take off any articles of clothing that expose things that shouldn't be exposed. But if you do that and you get caught, apologize.
I know I spoke to you about this before, if you were stopped for a DUI or but you said, I mean, if they ask you to do a breath test or something like that, that you shouldn't. You can say no.
I think you need, yeah, that's right. And I think you need to understand that my position here is this. You have a right not to give evidence against yourself. Now, there are repercussions for that. Okay, because driving is not a right. Driving is a privilege that's granted to you by the state. But if you're stopped and you're drunk, you do not have to make the case against yourself. Now, you'll lose your license for a year, and you can get it back administratively. You can get it back to drive to church and drive to AA meetings and to drive to work and pick up your kids. And to school, you can get it for that kind of thing. If you think about it, that's really all you ever drive for. And so you can get your license back in an administrative hearing, but you do not have to give evidence against yourself in anything, even if you're charged with murder.
So if you're not in the car,
Natalie.
I mean, a lot of people are walking around in downtown Savannah during this time, and they're all having a great time. Most of them are drinking a lot and consuming a lot of alcohol. So how do they determine who to throw in jail and who not to throw in jail? And do they do breathalyzers tests where that's concerned too, or no?
You don't have to do that either. You know who I think they're locking up is the obnoxious people who seem violent or stupid. And, you know, I saw an officer one time watch my brother-in-law light his cigar off the flame in front of the courthouse, and he laughed because that was funny, and we did it in a funny way. The same person scaling that thing and looking like they're going to hurt it or do damage to it, who is too drunk to be out in public, who's saying nasty things, might well get arrested. So I think it's the attitude of the reveler.
So a final word, we've got a lot of people in town. What would you say to our viewers out there during this busy weekend and Irish celebration?
I don't know. I mean, I think you should have fun in Savannah and enjoy it. It's one opportunity to kind of live it up in Savannah and don't get in trouble. But if you get hurt, figure out somebody to call. And I would suggest you call us, and we'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for that information, Mark. If you have questions for our legal expert, Mark Tate, all you have to do is go to the website you see on your screen. You can also send us a message on our Facebook page, The Southern Scene, or go to our website at WSAV.com. We'll get all of those legal questions answered for you. Don't go away. We'll be back with more of The Southern Scene right after this. Stay with us.
We were seen on The Southern Scene.